I know I've already said this before, but I'm so glad you're a regular part of your small group. And wherever you are in your relationship with God, it's my prayer that as you live life with these other Christ followers, that you realize that being a Christian isn't just about what you know, but it's also about what you do. It's about loving out loud, right? But the Christian life is a funny thing sometimes. We go to camp or we have a great small group, we hear an awesome message from our youth leader, we watch a great video of some incredibly handsome and amazingly wise youth pastor from Southern California, and we get excited about how we're going to go for change and we're going to change the world for Jesus. You know what I'm talking about. The day after church camp, you're walking around like you're a spiritual Superman. You're trying to turn bottled water into Coke. You're pretty sure you could perform a miracle or cast a demon out of your youth leader. You're feeling spiritual. Life is good. God is great. And you're confident that any day now the world is going to change because, hey, you and Jesus are like this and serving is like this. And if you open the door, you see all the... Sorry. But then reality sets in. You get tired of living by different rules than everybody else. You feel like no one cares that you're trying to be different. You try to tell your friend about Jesus, but he just thinks you're an idiot. You start seeing selfishness and pride and anger pop up in your interactions with other people. At one point you thought you were going to change the world, but today you're thinking, am I really doing any good at all? Maybe the people you're reaching out to are ungrateful. Maybe you think all the good you're doing is being undone the moment you leave. Maybe you feel like you're the only one in your youth ministry who really cares about being like Christ. Or maybe not. Maybe life is great right now. And whatever the case, I promise you this, at some point in time, every one of us who's trying to love out loud is going to look at the craziness in the world around us. We're going to see evil and selfishness and brokenness and greed and wonder, am I doing any good at all? Am I making a difference? There have definitely been times in my life as a youth pastor for 25 years where I've felt like that. I've invested my time and my energy and my life into teenagers. Sometimes for years, only to see them walk away from the church and even worse, walk away from Jesus. Or are there times at church when I'm giving a talk and I'm wondering, is anybody really caring about this? Is anybody going to be changed? Am I doing any good? I could be thinking that right now because this is on video and you could have all left by now. And I wondered, even now, am I making a difference? You see how easy that is? Whenever I start thinking like that, I'm reminded of an event in the Bible that puts things in a better perspective for me. And I'm guessing you may have heard of it before. It's when Jesus fed 5,000 men, which probably meant about 15 to 20,000 people altogether, because back then they didn't count women and children, even though they were eating. It was just kind of weird that way. But anyway, a lot of mouths to feed, and they were fed with 5 loaves and 2 fish. And this event is recorded in all 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But John is the only author who tells us where the fish and the bread came from. Look at this with me. Jesus soon saw a huge crowd of people coming to look for him. Turning to Philip, he asked, "Where can we buy bread to feed all these people?" He was testing Philip, for he already knew what he was going to do. Philip replied, "Even if we worked for months, we wouldn't have enough money to feed them." Then Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "There's a young boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good is that with this huge crowd?" All right, now let's think about what this might have been like for the young boy who gave away his food. It had to be an exciting day for him. Earlier in the day, he talks to his mom about letting him skip school so he can listen to Jesus teach. That's a pretty good way to get out of school, by the way. "Hey, Mom, the creator of the universe, yeah, God in the flesh, Jesus, he's hanging out over by that big hill. Do you think I can skip geometry to go listen to him?" And so the kid's mom, who knows? She's not going to say no about a request like that. But being a mom, she also wanted to make sure little Ralphie, that's his name. I just decided its name. It's not in the Bible. But he wanted to make sure that little Ralphie had his jacket for when it gets cold and had some food, a little snack, a meal of fish, and some bread for when he gets hungry. And so Ralphie's listening to Jesus speak. The sun is setting, everybody's stomach's growling, there's no food around except Ralphie's got food, and he's thinking, hey, sucks to be you, suckers. I got my fish in my pocket. And just as Ralphie is about to bite into that delicious mackerel on rye sandwich, some dude with a scraggly beard named Andrew comes by and says, "Hey kid, Jesus wants your food." Now, if I'm Ralphie, my first thought is probably, well, have Jesus get his own food. But of course, it's Jesus we're talking about, so it's not like Ralphie can say that. But I got to believe that in the back of Ralphie's mind, he thought, what could Jesus do with such a small amount of food? I mean, how's it going to do any good anyway? He's turned water into wine before. How about turning, spit into spaghetti? But what Ralphie found out that day is that Jesus doesn't need our stuff, but He loves our obedience. And He can take that little bit of obedience and He can multiply it. Now, let's go back to that verse that we were reading and just read a short section of it. It says this: Jesus already knew what He was going to do. I mean, Jesus knew He was going to feed the people. And if He wanted to, He could have turned the rocks that they were sitting on into bread pudding, which would have been an awesome miracle. But He didn't do that. He allowed other people to get in on His plan, to be a part of the miracle. And it's the same way today. A lot of times we think that because we're not talented enough, or because we're so sinful, or because we can't see anything happening in the world around us, that we're not making a difference. But the truth is that our acts of service aren't what changed the world. I mean, just like Ralphie wasn't the one who fed all those people, but when we're obedient, Jesus takes our small and insignificant acts of service and He multiplies them 12, 100, 1,000 times through His power to fulfill His plan. That's the type of multiplication that we're talking about here. That's loving out loud multiplies. That's loving out loud in big ways. So the next time you feel like you're not making a difference, remember Ralphie's small contribution. And remember that the power of loving out loud lies in Jesus changing the world and allowing you and I to be a part of that change. Now, as you go to your small group, have a great time. Connect with one another. Talk about things that really matter. How can you, loving out loud, multiply and make a difference in the world? See you soon.